Again, please welcome Rachel Aha, the Director of Government Affairs for the Southwest Region for Cox Communications and Storyteller from 2022.
I'm beginning to think it's Rick's goal to single-handedly get me over my public speaking anxiety. As I said, I'm Rachel Aha. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Cox Communications, a 2022 Storyteller, and the Chair of the Board for Read Better, Be Better, an organization that exists to solve Arizona's literacy crisis. And I am honored today to introduce you to Sophie Allen-Etchart, the CEO and founder of that very organization. Sophie's from England, as you'll be able to tell, but she also speaks Spanish, French, and German. And I met Sophie in 2016 when I answered a call for volunteers for RBBB. And since that day, I have been inspired by her passion and relentless dedication for not just literacy, but for equity and justice, and her willingness to get in the middle of solving those issues in her community. I can't wait to hear her story. Please help me welcome Sophie Allen-Etchart.
Standing here and talking about myself, and particularly my achievement, is extremely difficult for me. Not least because I was labeled a troublemaker and an underperformer early enough that label really stuck. Interestingly enough, I found out about this award on the same night that my husband found my university transcripts. And he was aghast. He was like, "Those are all D's." And I said, "We call those passes in England, sir." And I referred him back to my recent coronation as a woman of achievement, and we were able to move along. But suffice to say, my teachers likely didn't see this day coming. I also wasn't pegged as a future woman of achievement because my response to the world as I experienced it was considered extreme and made people uncomfortable. I felt the trauma that I, like so many people, experienced so deeply that it physically hurt. And I expressed that hurt in ways I think that made people uncomfortable. And I scared them. And so you'll see that I've carefully edited myself in and out of the next 7 or so minutes of narrative. Because when I talk about myself, my chest constricts and it's really difficult to breathe. And I'm almost guaranteed to cry. Because when you've been made to feel since a very young age that your deep feelings and your refusal to conform diminish your worth, that it's a bit of a stretch to stand on a stage in front of 600 people and say, "Hey, look at me, I've achieved." So while that's something that I'll continue to work on with my therapist, rather than what you're here to listen to, it's just kind of important that we all understand where I'm starting from. And I think the word achievement is also difficult for those of us who work in the social sector because our purpose is to address a social problem. And so to have achieved might or should mean really that social problem no longer exists. And in this case, unfortunately, that's very far from true. 27% of our children here in Arizona, who've experienced poverty are not reading at grade level. And while I know you can all do the math, but I fumbled that, so I'm going to say it in a different way and see if I can drive it home the way that I feel it. That means 3 out of every 4 of our most vulnerable children in this community have not had access to the tools that they need to be able to functionally read. And yeah, that affects me. And I veer wildly between being utterly heartbroken and absolutely appalled. And so while I might not feel comfortable thinking that I've done anything necessarily special, or at least that others wouldn't have done with the same opportunity and information, I do know that that knowledge hits me in a way that I'm prepared to use whatever experience and resource I have to try and do something. And it is my deeply felt, informed opinion that that problem still exists because public schools have become a reflection of and a battleground for our adult divide, rather than being resourced as an effective social foundation and treasured as a public good. Thank you. That disinvestment, both in terms of financial resource, but also in terms of our allocated public value, has led to disastrous outcomes for our children, particularly those living in poverty. Hey, that's a lot to digest over lunch. So, back to me and my achievement. So, I did do something. I founded an organization called Read Better, Be Better that connects young readers and youth leaders to inspire a love of literacy and learning. Since 2014, when it was founded, we've served over 13,000 students. And we pair the developing younger readers with older students in their school, and together they work on reading comprehension and discovering that love of literature. And the younger participants who are in that program will outperform consistently by between 15 and 20% on standardized reading comprehension tests. So it works. And you cannot imagine how proud that makes me and my team. You can't clap every time I cry because I'm going to cry like so many times. But I found the strength to found Read Better, Be Better. That was forged from the same deep feelings and the refusal to accept any status quo that perpetuates the cycle of poverty. That physical response to injustice is what fueled 9 years of relentless hard work. And when I say hard work, I mean I'm sitting in an armchair breastfeeding my brand new baby who's just been released from the NICU. And I take a call from my operations manager who asks me, the person with a half-assed bachelor's degree and about 4.5 minutes of relevant experience, what she's supposed to do if 67 school-based programs are closed down because of a global pandemic, kind of hard work. So those moments of total overwhelm, crying, moments of magical joy, crying, failure, crying, all of it, 9 years later, still feel the whole thing the same exact way. There's a standing joke in Read Better, Be Better, because I still like to give the RBBB 101 presentation, kind of like an intro presentation to new employees. And that presentation has a slide in it that articulates the social problem. And I've probably done this presentation like 200 times at this point, and still get to slide 9, guaranteed to cry. But I tell my team that the day that I don't react that way is the day that I will retire, because I could not do this work any other way. So while I feel it all deeply, it's not all negative. I am stubbornly optimistic. My mother once referred to me as Pollyanna, and I'm pretty sure she didn't mean it as a compliment. But I took it as one, and so now I have a picture of Pollyanna up in my office wall, and I like to think that it's possibly the only time that Pollyanna has been used as a symbol of defiance. And I love people, I believe in people, I am moved by people. I've never been necessarily rooted in any one place, which has allowed me to travel and do moments of life with people from vastly different circumstances. And I think that's a lot of what informed my life's why, which is an acknowledgement that when resources are fairly distributed, then all children will have the opportunities for self-actualization that my economic privilege afforded me. And only then can we all thrive. So I worked desperately hard to make Read Better, Be Better a success. I held myself to the highest standards of consistency, diligence, credibility. I committed wholeheartedly to our organizational values of excellence and kindness, which I chose to memorialize my father, who passed away just a few months before Read Better, Be Better was founded. But in spite of our best efforts, the problem still exists, and there is still so very much to achieve. Then one day, 3 middle schoolers walk into program. Bernardo, Raimundo, and Christopher. And these young men share that they had participated in the program in 3rd grade in the very first pilot that I implemented myself. And they'd been so impacted by that experience that they had waited 3 years to come back and be part of the change and serve their community by reading with younger children in their school. Right! Read Better, Be Better gave them that opportunity. It was the Be Better of the Read Better, Be Better. And while I understand that founders are supposed to be visionaries, I swear to you, I had never connected the dots to see that day coming. So I was like, what? But then I put a structure around it and developed programming to make sure that we could reinvest in more of these young change makers, these future educators, these future civic leaders. I will not allow them to be overlooked. These young people with lived experience of the problem and of Read Better, Be Better's proven effective solution, they can confidently demand access to the foundational skills that they and their communities so desperately need and deserve. When that happens consistently across Arizona, that will be an achievement. But it wouldn't necessarily be mine so much as I think my role there as a leader of economic privilege is to give space, listen, adapt, but then really critically to know when the time is right to step aside. But I have played a key role in moving Read Better, Be Better to that goal. I've grown the organization from a budget of $25,000 to $2.4 million. We've gone from serving 30 students in that same pilot to graduating 7,000 students just this year. We've evolved from that 3rd grade programmatic response to an entire continuum of change making from kindergarten through continuing education. So we've had readers come back as leaders and now again as future educators. And if I stop in any one moment to really think about what all has been achieved over that time, it's kind of too overwhelming to grasp. But it all started with someone who, because of mediocre grades and perhaps a slight lack of respect for authority, would never have self-identified into leadership, let alone achievement. My first boss actually said that I was someone who, and I quote, even if there's an open door, we'll just smash through a wall. And I don't think that was a compliment either. But it was kind of to say, you know, I'm forging a difficult path, or that I might be, not to put too fine a point on it, a pain in the ass. But I do consider it an achievement that I have not let other people's idea of me to diminish my idea of myself as someone who can and will, irrespective of what boundaries may be in the way, do something to stand up for what they believe in. And I believe in the kindness and excellence, not potential for excellence, excellence of all children. And I believe in the power of public education as the cornerstone of a thriving and dynamic democracy within which we can disagree with radical candor while respecting the perspective of others. Listen, adapt, refine, absolutely. But never allowing ourselves or other people to be overlooked or to be devalued. Access to leadership has for too long been restricted to those who self-identify into it. I found the courage, barely, to stand here today because I know that Read Better, Be Better helps young people find their value, their voice, and their power to advocate for themselves and their communities. And so I hope that by sharing my story, I can help more people refuse to be overlooked and to commit to be the positive, progressive change that they want to see in the world, just like those three boys, Bernardo, Raimundo, and Christopher did.